Hello and welcome to another episode of the Field of 68's off-season grades. My name is Rob Dosser, and today I'm joined by Indiana's single biggest fan on the internet, Jeff Goodman, to break down the Hoosiers in their offseason and a coaching change and a brand new roster again. A lot going on in Bloomington this year. Goodman, how are you feeling, man? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I mean, listen, we got a guy who can coach in Bloomington now. The big question is, what's the roster construction going to look like? It's hard because obviously we know that they had money, right? They had probably top five-ish, 10-ish money this year overall. But you look at the roster, and I will say this, Rob. How many times? Here's my question to you. Ready? How many times have you seen Taylor Conway play?
Probably twice, once in the tournament and once in the Sun Belt Championship game.
How many times have you seen Lamar Wilkerson play?
And I've watched clips.
Okay. How many times have you seen Jason Miles play from North Florida?
At least 30. I watched every North Florida game. I'm a die-hard North
How
Florida
about
fan.
Nick Dorn? How about Nick Dorn at Elon?
I'm a season ticket holder for the Elon Phoenix.
Okay. Those are probably four of their top five guys, maybe. I mean, Connor Enright, DePaul, you saw him a little bit because you're a Big East homer. Reed Bailey at Davidson, you probably saw a little bit, but not a ton. You weren't sitting there watching Davidson games every single night.
You weren't.
Um,
I was.
all right. Anyway, so those are probably their top six players. Would you agree with that at this point, other than Tucker DeVries? Tucker DeVries didn't play last year much for West Virginia. We know Tucker DeVries. We've seen him a ton. Other than that, so those other guys are six of their top seven players. Agreed?
Yes.
And most people have no idea who any of them are. So my question to you, I'm going to turn it back on you, is how confident are you in the money that Indiana spent that they're going to be a lock NCAA tournament team, not really having seen these guys play before?
A lock NCAA tournament team. I feel I'm about as confident as you could that the Indiana Hoosiers, with the roster that they put together, can dance. Right. I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities for them to win games in the Big Ten. I think that they're going to be playing in front of a home court that is actually more bought in than we've seen in the past. And more than anything else, it's the process of how the roster was put together that makes me feel good about where this team is right now. And what I mean by that is you added three guys in Lamar Wilkerson, Tucker DeVries, and Reed Bailey that shot better than 40% from three. Wilkerson and DeVries shot 44.5% and 47% from three on more than 7 3-pointers attempted per game this past season. Nick Dorn and Josiah Miles, they're both 6'6". They both shot 35% from three, and they both took more than 7 threes per game. You added a whole bunch of guys that are going to play on the wing, that are positionally versatile, that will be able to play anywhere in that 2 through 4 spot, that took between 7 and 8.5 threes per game, and they all shot better than 35% doing it. You added a point guard in Tacon Conway, whose ability is getting into the paint, getting a paint touch, making something happen, creating for somebody else, who can also be a pest on the ball defensively, right? And I think when you combine those things, that is what we saw last year with Darren DeVries at West Virginia before injuries kind of sapped what that program was and what that team was. So the question is, to me, not whether or not they put together a roster where structurally they're going to be able to win. The question is, what's the transition going to be like for a lot of these teams? All due respect to the Sun Belt, the Sun Belt ain't the Big Ten. All due respect to Sam Houston State, you're not playing the guys at Sam Houston State that you're going to be playing when you're going up against Purdue and Michigan State and Illinois. Same thing with Nick Dorn and Elon. Same thing with Josiah Miles in North Florida. It is making the adjustment up a level. That is my biggest question with this group. It's not whether or not the right process was followed to be able to put together a team. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean they're going to look very different, right? They're going to be skilled. They're going to have shooters. No lack of shooters on this team. Like everybody can shoot the ball. Like that's the beauty of this team. So I think fans are going to love the fact that they can put points on the board. They're going to run great offense. Darren DeVries, a hell of a coach. D-Rock, that's what you can call him, okay, just so you know. But can they guard? Can they stop anybody, Rob? Because the way I'm looking at it now, like, who's a really good defender other than Conway? Conway is probably going to be your best defender, right? He's fast. When he wants to get after people, he can defensively. Other than that, Wilkerson, probably an average defender. Miles, average defender. Dorn, average defender. Bailey, average defender. Not a rim protector. Not really a rim protector. So defensively, they're not great, right, on the perimeter. Can we agree on that? Probably not going to be great. I don't want to say not great because we don't know yet, but collectively. But individually, if you look at them all, they're not great defenders. And then
it's not a team that's built to be a great defensive team.
Right.
They went out.
But you want a rim protector. If you have a bunch of guys defensively on the perimeter that aren't great, don't you want a big time rim protector? And you don't have that with Reed Bailey.
Well, we don't, but you don't know if you're not going to have it because they did bring in Sam Alexis to transfer from Florida, which gets into we're kind of jumping the gun here, but Alexis is my X factor for a lot of the reasons that you just mentioned.
Really,
right?
Sam Alexis
is
interesting.
The X factor for this group for a lot of the reasons you just mentioned, right?
Wow.
Like, if you are going to be a team that does not have great perimeter defenders and you need to be able to have somebody at the rim that's going to erase stuff at the rim. That's going to take away the ability to score, on layups. And there's two examples that I'm going to use here. One is that Creighton over the last couple years has not necessarily had great rim protection, right? Or I'm sorry, great perimeter defenders. You're not going to sit here and say Stephen Ashworth is going out and going to be your lockdown guy in the point guard. But they've been one of the better defensive teams, not just in the Big East, but nationally, because you got Ryan Kalkbrenner, who takes everything away at the basket. I'd make the same argument for what UConn was in 2024. They didn't have great perimeter defenders. It's not like Tristan Newton and Cam Spencer are these lockdown guys, but they were elite defensively because, well, they had Steph Castle, but also you had Donovan Clingan at the rim, erasing anything and everything around the basket. And Sam Alexis, this past season at Florida, kind of got forced out because you had Ruben Chinyelu, because you had Alex Condon, because you had I'm blanking on Micah Hanlogden, who ended up coming back early from an injury, right? You had Thomas Hawk. You had players that kind of forced him out of the rotation. When he was at Chattanooga 2 years ago and he entered the portal, he was one of the more sought after big guys because he basically averaged a double-double and more than 2 blocks a game in 2024. So if he can get close to what he was then, and like he's a big, long, athletic, physical guy, if he can get close to that, then I think it changes what Indiana can be defensively. I'm not saying he's got to be Ryan Kalkbrenner or Donovan Clingan because he's not going to be, but if he can get to like 67%, 2/3 of what those guys were, then I think it kind of changes the calculus for what Indiana can be defensively.
I mean, to me, the X factor is clear for me, and it's Tacon Conway. He's going to be the guy. He's got the ball in his hands. He's never been a point guard at this level. He's a high risk, high reward guy, super fast, but he's got a completely different group around him. So I just think a point guard going up a level, maybe 2 levels, with a completely different group players, a new coaching staff, asked to defend. He's got to defend, has to score when necessary, doesn't have to average 14 or 15. To be honest, probably more important, he averages 10 to 12 and 6 or 7 assists and cuts down his turnovers. Turnovers are going to be key for Conway. Mm-hmm. Absolutely key. See, and he doesn't even have to shoot it great because he's going to have enough shooting around him. He's just got to get into the seams, push it, get easy baskets in transition, make the right decisions, get the ball to the open shooter because he'll have 4 of them. I mean, literally, that's the beauty for Conway. He's going to have shooters on the wing. Reed Bailey, we know, can score in the post with both hands. He could step out and shoot it some as well. So there's going to be no lack of offensive weapons around Conway. It's a lot. It's a lot on him. A lot.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. Yeah, I'm not as worried about him because I think that the shooting is going to make it very easy for him to be able to get paint touches, right? The question is the decision making. Will he be able to make the right pass and the right read when he gets there? I would expect the turnovers to come down simply because there's not going to be as much on his shoulders offensively. Like it's going to, he's going to be the guy that sets the table for everybody else. The way that this team is built, is different than what he had to deal with at Troy, right? Like he was the guy at Troy. Here, he's going to be the guy that sets the table for the guys, Lamar Wilkerson and Tucker DeVries. And I do also think, again, I'll go back to Sam Alexis. If he gets put in a ball screen and you got 4 shooters around him and you got Sam Alexis rolling to the rim, you know, it makes life a lot easier if Sam Alexis can be that guy where you just throw it up to the top of the square and he can find a way to go up and get it. That makes life very easy for point guards when defense has to make a decision. Do we want to give this guy a layup going to the rim? Do we want to leave this guy open, rolling to the basket, or do you want to be able to stay home on all of these 3-point shooters? So I'm in on the roster construction, right? I think that the way that they put this together makes sense. I think the biggest issue is going to be adjusting up a level. And here's the other question I have for you, Goodman, and I'm curious your insight on this, because the way that this coaching search kind of played out, right? Like this is Indiana, right? And they ended up with a guy that spent 6 years at Drake and had 1 season at West Virginia. That was not exact. Like we're not talking like 2010 Bob Huggins taking Deshaun Butler to the Final Four at West Virginia this past year, right? Is this a situation where Indiana fans should be happy about the hire that was actually made and where they kind of ended in this situation?
I mean, again, they might have thought they were going to get, somebody with a better resume, more impressive resume at the end of the day, but those guys just weren't moving.
Mm-hmm.
Either they weren't moving or Indiana wasn't moving on them. I think a lot of people wanted Chris Beard at one point, and Indiana just wasn't going to go that route. With Beard's, what happened off the court a couple of years ago to get him fired at Texas. So you end up with a really good ball coach, right? I mean, did an incredible job at Drake, incredible, and did a hell of a job at West Virginia last year with, a couple players that really, were West Virginia caliber players. And he's dealing without his son for 2/3 of the season. Remember who they beat early on in the year. I mean, it was super impressive what they were doing with a healthy Tucker DeVries. Now, that's the other thing we haven't talked about yet. The health of Tucker DeVries. He's had multiple shoulder issues. He's got to get through the year healthy. He's got to stay healthy all year, because he might have to be. I don't think they're going to have a dude. I don't think they're going to have like one guy who's an all first team Big Ten type caliber player. I think they're going to have, 2 or 3 guys that are, second team, third team caliber players. I don't know if Tucker DeVries comes back like he was before this injury. And also, let's face it, he was a dominant player in the Valley, and then he was really good last year at West Virginia. But I almost feel like if Tucker DeVries is your alpha, your best player at Indiana, I'm not sure you're more than a, like you need, what I guess I'm saying is you need other guys with him. You need like a 3-prong attack here with Conway, Wilkerson, and Tucker, and Reed Bailey all averaging between 12 and 16.
Well, that's what I think it would be. Like, I don't think that this is going to be Tucker DeVries is going to shoot 22 shots a game the way that it was at Drake.
He's not Doug McDermott.
No,
Like
he's
he's
not.
not Doug McDermott.
But I don't think anyone is expecting him to be Doug McDermott, right? I just think that again, the way that it's been kind of built is there's going to be too many weapons for you to stop offensively. I think the point, I'm honestly, I'm not worried about what they're going to be on that end of the floor. I think that they're going to find a way to be like a top 20 offense in America on Ken Palm. And I think that is enough for them to be able to compete with just about anyone in the Big Ten. The biggest issue, like you said, is going to be defensively. Do they have enough weapons? Can Lamar Wilkerson and Tucker DeVries stay in front of these talented wings that you're going to find in the Big Ten? What is Tacon Conway going to do against the likes of, of Braden Smith and some of these other point guards that you're going to find in the Big Ten? What happens? Look at Michigan, right? I think Michigan, to me, the way that I see, and then we can get into expectations here, the way I see the Big Ten shaking out is that it's Purdue, and then there's like 6 or 7 other teams that you can all make an argument for to be the second best team in that conference. I would probably have Michigan as the second best team in that conference. And if you look at the way that Michigan was built, their front line is going to be Yaxel Lendenberg, who probably would have been drafted before Michigan's All-American Danny Wolf this past season decided to go to Michigan. He's going to be there with Morris Johnson. He's going to be there with Namari Burnett. He's going to be there with Roddy Gale and Elliot Cadeau. And he's going to, and that front line is going to have to deal with one of the biggest, most physical, nastiest leagues in the country. Michigan State's not getting any softer, right? They're not getting any weaker. Illinois is bringing in a bunch of talent, and they got a bunch of old guys, and they got a bunch of players that have spent a lot of years playing professionally in Europe on that roster. I think when you look at the other teams in the Big Ten they're going to be competing with, you have to find a way for those guys to be able to get enough stops. If you are, I'll just throw Iowa out there, right? Because they're at the top of my head. Iowa's been an elite offense for however many years that Fran McCaffrey was at Iowa. Their issue was always they couldn't get enough stops for them to ever get over the hump for being like really good in the Big Ten. Even when they had Luka Garza, even when they had Keegan
Or in
Murray,
the tournament. More
yeah,
importantly, in the tournament.
yeah. Sorry, I meant in the tournament. But even when they had the National Player of the Year, a top 5 pick in the draft, another first round pick, like even when they had all that talent, they couldn't get enough stops. And I'm not saying that's what Indiana's going to be. I'm just saying that's what you got to be careful
Indiana,
of. The way this team was
it's
built.
funny because Illinois is the biggest mystery team in the Big Ten because of all their international guys. Mm-hmm. Indiana's not far behind because all their mid-major guys, right? We know Tucker DeVries, as long as he's healthy, what he'll do. I think we know Reed Bailey, what he'll do. I mean, again, it's a jump going from the A10 to the Big Ten, no doubt, but Reed Bailey's going to be a good player. Again, I'm with you on the defense. The defense and the rim protection specifically really worries me. I wish they had,
and their work on the glass too, because it's not like they have a bunch of guys that are just hoover up rebounds. That's
Agreed.
why that's why. So that you've kind of are you on the same bandwagon now? When I said Sam Alexis is the X factor, like he's the guy to me.
No, I'm not on that wagon.
That is
You're
going to
on
be
that
the
wagon
difference.
by yourself. You're the only one on that wagon right now.
He'll be the difference. Watch, mark
it's
my
you
words.
On the wagon with all the room to move around on that wagon.
First of all, I've never been on the wagon. We all know that. Second of all, when we look up in January and they're struggling defensively without Sam Alexis on the floor, and you say, look, Sam Alexis is he's kind of the key to what this team is because of what he brings defensively on the glass. I'm probably not going to remember that, but somebody please remind me. One of you Indiana fans has to remember this so I can rub it in Goodman's face in January when all of that happens. Sorry, I cut you off. You were saying
they need another big. I mean, they're another proven big away, I think, because they're also one injury away up front from being in trouble.
Yep.
So like they got a lot of good guards and wings. Like I think the kid Miles is, he's a volume shooter, a scorer, not an explosive athlete, but like he'll be solid and he could start. I mean, that's the other thing you have right now, right? I mean, Conway, Wilkerson, DeVries, and Bailey that are going to start. Those 4, you feel pretty good. The 5th starter, I think, is going to be completely open and up for grabs. Now, again, you could easily convince me that they need Alexis in there because of rebounding. But I think it's just going to be, whoever plays the best in the preseason out of, Miles, maybe it's Enright to give more ball handling. And you could play Conway off the ball a little bit. I don't know, and play 2 point guards. Maybe it's Dorn, because he's a catch and shoot guy. He can. I don't think you'd need. I think Dorn comes off the bench because you have enough guys that can do that. But I wish they had one more big. I wish they had one more proven big.
Yeah. So, well, we're jumping the gun again, which always happens when Goodman jumps on these things. But my offseason grade for Indiana is a B, and I wrote it would be an A if they landed an Elite Five. Like if they went out and they got I don't even like the best five, if they got Oscar Clough, or if they got another one of if they got Henry Visar, if they got one of these like elite fives out of the portal, it would have been an A, but they didn't. They got a guy who they're kind of gambling on, a post hype bounce for him, in Sam Alexis. So that's why it landed on a B for them. What would you give Indiana for their offseason grade?
Yeah, I'd give him a B as well. And it's not even so much a 5. It's a proven high major guy to go along with DeVries. Like, give me another guy I knew. Like, if I'm DeVries and I knew I had that, like, did it already at the high major level. That's what I would want here is just another guy that I know when the lights go on at Assembly Hall, they've played in those places and they've already thrived in those places. These guys, man, could be a little bit of an adjustment. And I'm not saying that I think Lamar Wilkerson can be built for that. I don't worry about him as much, but he just hasn't done it yet. So it may be a little bit of an adjustment, especially at first. Now, they've played in bye games, but a lot of those teams, they've gotten their ass kicked in bye games. Now, you should be doing the ass kicking.
Yeah. Yeah, you're 100% correct, that adjustment. So what are your expectations for Indiana this season? Because I don't think, look, like I said, it's Purdue's conference to lose. I'd probably have Michigan, Illinois, Michigan State, Wisconsin. I could be talked into Ohio State, UCLA, certainly, maybe Oregon. Like, I think that there's a group of like 6, 7, maybe 8 teams that are all kind of in that second tier in the Big Ten. And to me, Indiana is one of that second tier. I'd probably have them towards the bottom of that second tier. I think they're going to be more back end top 25, win a game in the tournament, and it's probably a good season. But also, it's Indiana. Like Indiana, the expectation is always Big Ten championship, Big Ten tournament championship, find a way to get to the Final Four, compete for a national championship.
Yeah, my expectations would be similar, right? I mean, if you can crack the top 5 of the Big Ten, that's a really good year. Be in the top 25 most of the season, back end 15 to 25, that's a really good year. What would be a disaster is if they spend all this money and they don't get to the NCAA tournament in year 1. Because then going into year 2, it'll be like, is Darren DeVries the right guy with all that money? So you got to get to the tournament and not just slip in like Mike Woodson's teams, did a couple of years. And again, it's as much as anything, it's also like play hard, play together, move the ball, be fun to watch. Like, I felt like that team, they had no emotion with them. Like, those players last year, like the last really couple years since Trace left, they weren't that much fun, and especially with football being so good last year, Rob. Football was so good. Why? A bunch of guys that you didn't expect to win that, man, they played hard. They enjoyed it. They appreciated it. Where, like, that basketball team kind of looked the opposite in a lot of ways. Like, again, Umar Bala would be great one game, and then he didn't play hard. Mackenzie Mbako, great early in the season, and then looked like he regressed. It was just a lot of things that you could put on the coaching and the staff, as it wasn't necessarily talent. It was preparation. It was
the modernization of it, man. Like they played two
Woodson,
bigs
yeah,
that could. They
I've
played two
been
bigs that
talking
couldn't.
about that. How many years have I been talking about Mike Woodson coaching in the 80s? I mean, that's he didn't adapt. He did not adapt to the modern day game, and he was too stubborn. to actually admit it and adapt. Where Darren DeVries will has and will continue to adapt to the modern game.
Well, yeah, because the style that he plays is modern. He is a Greg McDermott disciple. He was on the Greg McDermott staff, one of, I believe, now 11 Division One head coaches that are a product of Greg McDermott's coaching tree. It's almost like that guy knows what he's doing. Yeah, so you went for a B for the offseason grade. I landed on a B for the offseason grade. I don't think it's a perfect roster. I think that there's an obvious hole that we discussed, but I do believe that they have done enough for this team to be competitive, for this team to make the NCAA tournament, for them to expect to win a game in the tournament, and to have the goal. I talked with Mike Latulip on a couple of these, and he always says, "Can you be a double bye kind of a team?" Which means top four in the Big Ten. I
Yep.
think that should be the goal for Indiana. The expectation is dance and win a game. The goal should be top four in the Big Ten this season. I don't think that's out of the question. Listen, this has been fun. Field of 68 off-season grades. We're going to be rolling these out all through July and August, one a day. We're going to try to get to about 45 of these episodes. So make sure you're subscribed to the Field of 68 YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to the Field of 68 podcast feeds, wherever you get podcasts for absolutely free. For Jeff Goodman, my name is Rob Doster. We'll see you again on the next episode, Field of 68 off-season grades.